Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world. And so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I hope you're doing really, really well. And I hope life is treating you fabulously. And I hope you're going to go and get yourself something lovely to drink, because we're on part 2 of our story tonight. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell and the thumbs up. And let's continue with part 2 of our story tonight. Don't worry about me, Deborah. I'm doing just fine, said my wife. Is my appointment next? She asked, looking down at her watch. That's right, you are next, said the woman. She was in her early 60s. Was very elegantly attired and well presented, I have to admit. Look, Deborah, I'm only having a scaling and a polish. But this gentleman over here... Sorry, what's your name? She asked me again, even though I had only just introduced myself to her as Hamish Buckler. But she'd been quick to forget. Maybe I hadn't made such a good impression on her after all. I'm Hamish Buckler, I reminded her. Well, this man, Hamish Buckler, well, he's in desperate pain, I believe. He's got an abscess on his tooth, Deborah. I'm quite happy to trade places with him, because I don't need to be in that kind of rush. I'll go off and do a bit of shopping and come back. I'll take over his appointment and he can have mine. Are you sure you want to do this? I asked, looking at this woman gratefully, unable to believe this random act of kindness coming from her. Because it was true. I was in agonizing pain. I had been decidedly angry with this woman for taking my seat, and we hadn't exactly been all that nice to each other. But she appeared willing to let me take her appointment from her, because she fully appreciated the pain that I was going through, and that was a very generous thing for her to do. I didn't know what Miss Maxwell's name was, but when she left the surgery for an hour or so, in order to go shopping, I gave the woman in reception a note to give Miss Maxwell. Please, will you give it to Miss Maxwell, I asked, when she comes back, just in case I miss her and don't have an opportunity to thank her for what she's done for me. The woman in reception, well, her eyes twinkled a little, and she said, Of course I'll do that for you, Mr. Butler. I'm delighted to help. It was very kind of Miss Maxwell to trade places with you like that. She's a very sweet, generous young lady, you know, but she knows a thing or two about tooth pain. She had a root canal once, and that was not an easy procedure for her to endure. She's been coming to Mr. Holmes's practice since she was a little girl, you know, so I've known her for a very long time. I've worked in the surgery for over 20 years, you know. Is that right? I said. I left a note with the receptionist that read, Miss Maxwell, it was good to meet you. I don't know your full name, but you kindly changed places with me in the dental queue because of my unfortunate abscess. I'm grateful for your generosity in this regard. Sorry I was rather rude and offensive earlier on, and got angry with you for taking my chair next to the fish tank. You're right, I had no business in doing that. I would really appreciate you giving me a call. I would like to take you out for dinner sometime, by way of saying thank you. Yours, kindly, Hamish Butler. A week passed, and I really didn't think I'd hear from my wife again. And then just when I'd given up on hearing from her, the cell phone rang, and a female voice on the other end said, Hello, is that Hamish? Speaking. Who is this? I asked. It's Carol speaking. Carol who? I asked. You must excuse me, but I don't exactly know any Carols. Have you forgotten me already? Said the teasing voice. I'm Carol Maxwell, the woman that changed places with you in the queue at the dentist's office to relieve you of the pain you were experiencing from your abscess. I decided to play the part of the Good Samaritan. Not that you deserved it, of course. I'm surprised I'm so easy to forget. I did steal your seat after all, and by all accounts that was a big deal for you, because if you remember, we had quite a spat together over that. Is it really you? I asked her. I thought you'd never phone me back. I can't believe you did. I'm so glad you called. To tell you the truth, Hamish, I was doubtful whether I should phone you at all, because you were so infuriatingly offensive towards me in the dental surgery. But then I persuaded myself that given that physical pain that you were experiencing was so intolerable, that I should forgive you. I know a thing or two about tooth pain, you see. I've had an agonizing root canal treatment myself, and let's just say I went to hell and back. So tooth pain is not something that can be sniffed at, and it's certainly not for the faint of heart. When my sister was giving birth about 2 years ago, I believe it was, I was at her side through the delivery. She called me every foul name you can think of under the sun, and more besides. And if I can forgive her for those unfortunate words that she spilt out to me, I can forgive anyone that's insulted me. And you're at the top of that list, I have to say.
You're a very kind, generous and forgiving woman, Carol, and I'm glad to hear you say this. I was a jerk to you, and I don't deserve to be forgiven. But I was in a bad way that day, and pain can bring the very worst out in a man.
Well, then it's a good job that women are the ones that have babies and not men, don't you think? That's what I always say. I think that women have a higher pain threshold than men do. And I imagine if men had to have babies, we'd have a massive population problem, because men simply wouldn't want to fall pregnant, so there wouldn't be any children left in the world.
I chuckled. You're right about that, Carol. I hope you don't mind me calling you Carol.
But of course you call me Carol. I hope I can call you Hamish.
I'd like that very much. Let's just say, Carol, it wouldn't be pretty if men carried babies to full term. So it's a good thing that we don't, or the human race would likely be extinct.
You're right about that. I rather suspect it would. Tell me, Hamish, how are you feeling?
She asked me teasingly.
Is the bear with the sore head a little less grumpy, perhaps?
I'm a lot less grumpy. I'm feeling marvellous now. No more pain. So how about dinner tomorrow night, Carol? Are you up for it? Or is the idea of spending an evening with a prize jerk that you met at the dental surgery pretty close to intolerable?
No, it isn't. Of course it isn't. It sounds perfectly lovely. Where shall I meet you, Hamish? I'd rather not be picked up on our first date, if you don't mind. It's one of my ground rules, you see. So that if I'm not happy on a date, I can walk away and drive myself straight back home. I like to do it that way. It makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I hope it doesn't come to that, and I very much doubt in my good company it will. Anyway, I'll be on my best behaviour tonight.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, Hamish,
said Carol with a giggle. How about we meet at that lovely vintage Italian restaurant in town? I'm sure you must know the one. It's got quite a good reputation. It has white climbing roses growing around the arch entranceway. You know the one.
Oh, you mean La Torramento? Oh, I love the place. It's my favourite Italian restaurant. The food there is to die for. I understand the place is run by a lovely Italian couple. They came to Virginia from Florence in the 1990s, I believe. Everything on the menu is authentic Italian. So I'm looking forward to it. See you at 7.
I do vividly remember when I walked into La Torramento with a single rose in my hand. My heart was flapping around wildly in my chest in eager anticipation of this date. The last time I'd felt this giddy and excited was when I was a smitten teenager over a girl that I'd met at junior high. I knew I felt a similar way to this woman that I'd met by chance at the dental surgery. I was ushered to a table by a very petite, plump Italian woman, with a round face and bright rosy cheeks, who couldn't speak a word of English. The table I had booked was in the far corner of the restaurant, so that me and Carol could have an opportunity of getting to know each other better, without being disturbed. I was determined to focus on this woman all evening, and to get to know all about her. After waiting for a full 40 minutes, I thought I'd been stood up by Carol, and then there she was, rushing towards my table, completely breathless.
Oh, I'm so sorry for being so late, but someone ran over a poor dog in the road and just bogged off. Can you believe that? I witnessed the whole thing.
Carol shook her head furiously. with a disgusted expression upon her face.
"Some irresponsible, self-centered driver didn't care to slow down. And they were driving in a residential area. It really sucks."
"Oh dear," I said sympathetically. "Did the dog die by any chance?"
"No, thank God he's all right. The dog only suffered a fracture in its left leg, I think. I picked him up myself and took him straight to the emergency vet. That thankfully is open for 24 hours. I think the dog is suffering from shock more than anything else. The poor thing looked so affrighted. He was shaking like a leaf. His name is Beano. I know that because he has a name and contact number on the collar. Thankfully I was able to call the owners, and they were in absolute shock, for they hadn't noticed their dog had gone walkabout. I think the owner accidentally left a gate open. They were so dismayed to learn about Beano's fate, that he'd been run over. So he's in surgery right now, even as I speak. I hope everything's going to be all right, but I spoke to the vet, and he's optimistic that Beano's going to make a full recovery. I do wish that people would take due care when they drive in residential areas."
It was in that moment I learnt that Carol was a woman of extreme compassion. She had a very big heart on her, and I found that extremely attractive. I remember staring at her with wide eyes, as if I thought she was the most beautiful creature I'd ever beheld, and in my eyes she was just that. I could see her refined qualities that she had were things that I lacked in my own personality. Carol's golden blonde shoulder-length hair tumbled over both sides of her pretty face, while her big blue eyes were so spirited, so full of life and energy. I knew in that quintessential moment that I wanted this incredible woman to become my wife one day, and from that moment on we became pretty close to inseparable, and we couldn't get enough of each other. A year later we were married. Me and Carol were happy for at least 8 years of our marriage, but then she began to distance herself from me, and that was when I suspected she was having an affair. I contacted a private investigator, a man called Zach Rossenberger. After I found the attorney's card in my wife's wallet, I needed to know what Carol was getting up to, whether she was seeking a divorce behind my back in order to marry someone else. It would certainly explain her insouciantly detached behaviour towards me over the last couple of years, that had changed as dramatically as a tap turning from hot to cold. At one point in time the fire in our marriage had been burning bright, like an unquenchable inferno, as we couldn't keep our hands off each other. But now the embers were icy cold, cruel and remote, as if we were two passing ships in the night that barely even got to acknowledge each other. By all accounts it would appear my wife Carol couldn't bear to look at me any more, and when she did, the expression on her face betrayed her full revulsion, as if she'd just stood on a pile of dog turd. Seeing her attitude towards me change from a wildly hot summer to a cruel icy winter had made my heart become leaden and heavy. I felt as if I was losing my wife, not to a terminal illness, of course, but to something far worse. She was falling out of love with me, and it felt as if my ego had been severed and severely crushed. Ostensibly, I was now doing a whole lot worse than that shattered Ming vase of hers, which she seemed to prize a whole lot more than her marriage to me. If my wife treated me half as well as she did some of her prize antiques, then I'd be a happy man indeed. I instructed Zach Rossenberg to follow my wife, because I unequivocally knew she must be having an affair. I mean, why else would she push me away all the time, if there wasn't someone else waiting in the wings for her? When I first married my wife Carol, I had wholeheartedly, rather foolishly believed that she was a loyal person. But obviously I stand to be corrected, for not everything is what it seems. Let's just say it would appear that Carol's loyalty is rather selective. When I observed her dressing up this morning, she looked as if she'd stepped out of a bandbox, and in the past she was extremely happy to go to that antique shop in town, casually wearing a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt. So I knew something was up. Now she looked as if she was preparing to step down the red carpet in Hollywood. My thoughts suddenly went back to my wife's boss, Travis Mason, who was 20 years her senior. Of course I was suspicious of Travis, even though if my wife were to be interested in him, in a romantic capacity that is, she'd almost certainly need her head examining. I needed answers to all these questions that were whirling around in my head like a cyclone, which was why I contacted Zach Rosenberg in the first place. I will admit I was a tad apprehensive of what he might find out about my wife, but I had to know what was going on. Zach Rosenberg looked like one of those very distinctive Jewish rabbis, with a long, full black beard. He prided himself in being extremely professional in his job. I remember he looked at me under the umbrella of his bushy eyebrows that so very desperately needed a trim. His brown, bird-like eyes peered at me from behind round spectacles, but they didn't appear to miss a single beat. And I knew at once, based on his shrewd demeanour, that this was the man for the job, the man that I wanted to discreetly follow my wife around, to see what she was getting up to behind my back, and who the hell she was seeing. Mr. Rosenberg cleared his throat and said, "You want me to follow your wife around, is that right, Mr. Butler?" "That's right," I said. "I think she may possibly be having an affair, and I need to find out who the bugger is so I can kill him myself." "I understand you feel very heated, Mr. Butler, but let's calm down, shall we? And not get too overexcited. A lot of people think their spouses are having an affair, you know, Mr. Butler, but it doesn't always mean that they are right. Some people have been pleasantly surprised to discover that their instincts were wrong, and that their marriage was just going through a so-called bad patch. What makes you so very sure, Mr. Butler, that your wife is cheating on you? Have you got any evidence to make you reach such a conclusion?" "My wife doesn't touch me any more. I can't remember the last time she told me that she loved me. She used to hug me all the time. She doesn't do that any more. She rolls her eyes when I talk about anything, and obviously distances herself from me. I want to know what's going on with her, Mr. Rosenberg. She has been seeing someone else, I'm sure of it. Or why would she reject me like this? I haven't let myself go, have I? I'm a reasonably good-looking man. I keep myself in excellent shape. So why should she shun me like this? It makes no sense to me at all." "What you say is true, Mr. Butler. But women can be enigmatic creatures, you know. Believe me, I know. It's taken me a lifetime to understand my wife, and I'm still learning. Relationships are tough, Mr. Butler. How can you be sure your wife is cheating on you? If she's distancing herself from you and rolling her eyes when you speak, maybe she's not happy in her marriage with you. But it doesn't mean she's cheating on you." "She is cheating on me. I know she is," I said adamantly. "I need some evidence, Mr. Rosenberg, to prove that this is going on behind my back. She used to wear jeans and sweatshirts to work. She'd leave the house looking extremely casual. Now she doles herself up to the nines, as if she's secretly trying to impress someone. An admirer, perhaps, or someone that she's been seeing. This behaviour has never happened to her before. Well, I will admit that dressing up glamorously, after being significantly carefree about your appearance, can be a bit of a red flag, but it also might be extremely innocent. Some women like to revamp their wardrobes, like to make themselves look a bit more glamorous. Is there anyone you think she could be having an affair with, perhaps? Is there someone you might have in mind? I find many spouses who suspect their partner is having an affair are often suspicious of someone they actually know." I thought about Mr. Rosenberg's words, and then I said, "Well, my wife works at the old antique shop in town, for the owner, a man called Travis Mason, who is 20 years her senior. I never thought she'd be interested in the likes of him. He's a real eccentric, you know. I'm not kidding when I tell you he dresses as if he's living in the 1800s. But my wife is forever singing his praises, and I think she likes his unorthodox manner. Even her own mother thought that Travis Mason was much more suitable for her than I ever would be. She was hopeful her daughter would marry an arty-farty type, with his head full of stars and absolutely nothing in his bank balance. All my wife's previous boyfriends were carefree nonconformists, if you know what I mean, Mr. Rosenberg. You would think that any self-respecting parents would be pleased that their daughter had found a man that could offer her a secure standard of living. But not Carol's parents. I don't think they've ever liked me. I'm not stupid. I've been a real estate agent for a long time, and I can pretty easily pick up on body language, and I can see their contempt for me in their eyes. They treat me nicely enough, but they do it for my wife's sake. But I think, if they were to see me, outside my wife's life, they would never even make an effort to befriend me. Interesting, said Zach Rosenberg, taking down a few notes. Anyone else you think could potentially be having an affair with your wife? Think about this very carefully, Mr. Butler. There may be someone you could have overlooked. Anyone. Well, I did find a card for a psychologist in my wife's wallet. The name on the card was Terry Wallace. Now, I don't know if she's seeing Terry Wallace on a romantic capacity, or if she's going to him to talk about her miserable marriage to me. Miserable, Mr. Butler? You think your marriage to your wife is miserable? You said it, not me. Well, of course it's miserable, Mr. Rosenberg. She won't even touch me these days. There was a time when we couldn't get enough of each other. Interesting, said Mr. Rosenberg, taking down yet more notes. It seemed interesting was the only word he kept using to describe my relationship with my wife. Is there anyone else, Mr. Butler, that your wife could be seeing? I know this is a sensitive subject to address, but we have to get to the nuts and the bolts of everything, as I'm sure you fully appreciate. Of course I do, Mr. Rosenberg. That's why I came to see you in the first place. Well, I have been snooping around in my wife's purse, and not only did I find the name of a psychologist in there, but I also found the name of an attorney. The man's name was Rorris Mecker. I did some research on him. I found out he specializes in divorce. So as you can imagine, that freaked me the hell out. But I also wondered if your wife was seeing Mr. Mecker on a romantic capacity. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Butler? That's right, Mr. Rosenberg. That's exactly what I was saying. Well, I'll get answers for you, Mr. Butler. But I hasten to tell you that my investigations do not come cheap. I'm thorough in everything I do. But one way or another, I will find out whether your wife is cheating on you or not. I don't mind what it costs, Mr. Rosenberg. I need answers, and I need them now. My wife is up to something. I know she is, and I mean to find out what it is. It was 2 weeks later when Zach Rosenberg got in touch with me to tell me he needed a chat in regards to my wife, and I was to meet him at his offices as soon as possible. I was very anxious when I arrived at his offices, but sometimes you need to face the truth, no matter how brutal it is. Who is he? I asked Zach Rosenberg. Who is my wife seeing? She's seeing a psychologist, said Zach Rosenberg. I knew it, I said. I knew it. I'll kill the man myself. How long has this been going on for? Mr. Butler, you've got me all wrong, said Mr. Rosenberg. I said your wife is seeing a psychologist. It's a woman called Terry Wallace. And so unless your wife is that way inclined, if she's bisexual, which I very much doubt, nothing is going on between the two of them. Your wife visits Terry Wallace on Tuesdays and Thursdays for an hour's appointment every time. My guess is she's got some issues she needs to address with Mrs. Wallace. I did some investigation on the woman and found out she's 30 years older than your wife and has 3 grown-up children. She's a happily married woman, so we can cross her off the suspect list. Well, that's a relief. Terry Wallace is a woman. To think I never even considered that for a moment, I said, wiping away the perspiration that had gathered on my forehead with a handkerchief. It was rather unusual for me to sweat like this, but it was happening right now because I was worked up into a frenzy about what Mr. Rosenberg would tell me. as I visualized my wife sneaking around with another man. What about Travis Mason? I asked. Did you get any dirt on him? Are he and my wife canoodling together? Mr. Travis Mason is as clean as a whistle, said Mr. Rosenberg. I followed him around for several days, you know. You're right, he's definitely an eccentric. But he's also a happily married man, who does dress as if he belongs to another time. But maybe he feels it's fitting to dress like he does, given the shop he owns specializes in antiques. I met him myself when I was looking around the lovely shop. It's got so many collectible vintage pieces, you know, many that my wife would really like, so I better not bring her anywhere near that shop. I found him to be a very eloquent and very charming man. He certainly does not come across as the type that would ever consider cheating on his wife. Actually, he was telling me about his wife, Polly, how he met her at church when he was only 18 years old, and how they've been in love ever since. I knew it, I said happily. It confirms my suspicions that my wife isn't having an affair with Travis Mason. I mean, he is 20 years her senior. But I think he's always been very good friends with my wife. They like each other a lot, and they enjoy each other's sense of humour. But I'm very relieved that nothing is going on there. So who is he? I demanded to know, my breath becoming almost raspy. How long was Mr. Rosenberg going to take to finally get to the point, I wondered. I felt as if I was trying to extract blood from a stone. Your wife has been seeing that attorney. Oh, my God! You're telling me she's seeing Rorris Mecca, the man that drives the white Rolls Royce? He's not that bad looking either. I've done my research on him, you know. He's certainly a very wealthy man. How long has the affair been going on for? My blood was now boiling at this point. I could feel my heart thundering through my chest, and my forehead was beginning to sweat profusely again, and I had to wipe away the sweat with a handkerchief. I knew I wanted to kill Rorris Mecca. How dare he lay a finger on my wife? How dare he? You misunderstand me, Mr. Butler. Your wife is seeing Rorris Mecca, but not on a romantic capacity. I don't know how to tell you this, Mr. Butler, but your wife is seeking his advice in regards to making inquiries about pursuing a divorce with you. I gather she's keen on serving you with divorce papers. She's put it on hold for a while, but what I can gather is she seems to be very keen to go through with it. But I don't know why. I'm not privy to all those details. I did, however, manage to get some inside information about the matter, using a few of my tricks of the trade, you could say. And let's just say it seems your wife wants out of your marriage. She wants to divorce me? Are you kidding me? She wants to divorce me? Bloody cheek. So who is the backstabbing prick then? Who is she cheating on me with? I wish you would tell me, Mr. Rosenberg, instead of keeping me in suspense like this. I hope you found out who he is, because I will kill him. Mr. Butler, please, will you calm down? You'll give yourself a heart attack if you carry on this way. Your wife is not cheating on you. That's what I've been trying to tell you. She's been loyal to you. I've followed her around for many days, and it's been pretty boring, let me assure you. She hasn't got any dirty secrets. I think she's just unhappy in her marriage with you. And it looks like she'll be serving you with divorce papers sooner or later. That's all I know, I'm afraid. When I learnt this, I was absolutely furious. There was no way on God's earth my wife Carol was going to divorce me. That was not going to happen. I was certain that the private investigator, Zach Rosenberg, was wrong. He hadn't been doing his job properly. I had overestimated his ability. My wife was cheating on me. Of that I was in no doubt. But Mr. Rosenberg had not been discerning enough to get to the nuts and bolts of my wife's infidelity. Had the investigator ever stopped to consider that she could be on one of those dating sites and was possibly having an online relationship with someone? But whoever he was, if I ever found out his name, he was a dead man walking. But right now the focus needed to be on my wife. I was waiting for her to come home on this Thursday evening, when the antique shop closed at 8, but she was certainly taking her time about it. I called her up and asked her where she was, because I'd been waiting an awfully long time. And I'm not exactly a patient man by any manner of means, although I am used to people messing me around as a real estate agent, because it goes with the territory of my job, I'm afraid to say. "Where are you?" I screamed down the phone, in a less than agreeable tone of voice, as despite what Zach Rosenberger had conveyed to me about my wife not seeing anyone, I wasn't going to buy that for a single second. I wasn't stupid. My wife was clearly seeing some fancy man behind my back, and was now intending to divorce me and humiliate me by serving me with divorce papers. And let me tell you, that was not going to happen.
Calm down, Hamish. What on earth is the matter with you? It's Thursday night. You know I work late on Thursdays.
Not this late. You've been gone for ages. Where did you say you were? How far are you from home?
I'm on that terrifying, treacherous cliff road. You know the one. I can't remember the name. But it's that perilous ribbon of road right on the edge of the cliff, with that huge steep drop. I'll be home in 10 minutes, but I need to concentrate on my driving. I don't want to go over the cliff's edge, do I? Why are you so concerned anyway? You're not normally bothered about what time I get home.
Have you forgotten the day? Have you, Cupcake? I said, emphasizing the cute name I used for her.
What day is it exactly? My wife asked me.
It's the anniversary of our first meeting at the dentist's office. You mean to say you've forgotten about it?
Oh, is it? Said my wife. We've never celebrated that anniversary before. Why now all of a sudden?
You mean you've forgotten? I said, emphasizing the hurt in my voice.
Well, I'm so sorry, Hamish. I had no idea it mattered so much to you.
But of course it matters, Cupcake. Everything that concerns you matters. We are celebrating, a very special time in our lives. I've prepared a wonderful surprise for the both of us. I want to celebrate us and the 10 years of happily married life we've had together.
How lovely! How very thoughtful of you, Hamish. I'll be back home soon,
came my wife's unenthusiastic, rather aloof response.
Oh, my God! I don't believe it!
What is it, love?
There's a woman lying in the middle of the road. I'd better get out of my car to help her. I think she might be the victim of a hit and run. I'm not sure if she's even alive. Oh, goodness gracious me, I can't believe this is happening.
I could hear my wife's car grinding to a perfect stop, and I was certain I could pick up her anxious breathing. Don't do it, Cupcake. You mustn't get out of your car. You must come home right away. You can call the police when you get home. I don't like you getting out on a very treacherous road like that. You're on the cliff, remember? It's not safe.
I'm very well aware of that, Hamish. Of course it's treacherous. I'm on the edge of the cliff, and it's extremely windy out there. But what kind of a human being would I be if I left this woman to her own devices? I need to see if she's all right, if I can possibly help her in any way, if she's still alive. Because if someone drives up this high incline at a faster speed than I do, they might actually run her over, and then she'll definitely be dead. I'd blame myself if I didn't help her. I haven't got a choice in this matter.
I sighed, knowing there was nothing I could do. My wife was stubborn like that. I told her I'd stay on the line for her. But the line went static, and I never heard from her again. Her car was found abandoned on that cliff road, with a very precarious drop, and her keys were in the ignition. And, of course, it was left just abandoned. A year later, the police still couldn't find answers, as no body was ever recovered at the bottom of the cliff, apart from my wife's red windbreaker. It was assumed my wife was dead, but others believed she had staged the whole thing and had disappeared into the sunset to begin a new life of her own, a life without me. I remember being left with a feeling of great displacement, as I didn't know what had become of my wife, and her face would regularly haunt my nightmares every night, because I so wanted my lovely wife back. But where was she? No body had ever been found. What had become of my sweet Cupcake? Was she even alive, I wondered.
So there we are. That is the end of part 2. Part 3 is tomorrow night, and I look forward to you joining me then. Until next time, goodbye and good night.